Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And we are going to be looking at smarter ways to invest today, and particularly investing in property. And I think this one will be quite interesting. If you're a landlord, you're an investor, you've got a portfolio, or building a portfolio, even if you're just starting out and thinking, where do I start? What's the best options? This is probably the best show to be listening to at the moment, in my opinion. But Jim, you have trodden this path and built a portfolio using the methods that we're going to cover today. So it's quite good to get your insights from someone that's been, 30 plus years been investing in property and using. We're going to talk about mortgages and lending and how best to use that to facilitate your position.
I think especially if when we've got coming up, if anybody gets a chance, if you're on the YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, because it obviously gives us more and more leverage, and potentially we might actually bring on some guests as well. But subscribe to the channel, and like whatever you want to do, comment, and if you comment in here, we'll actually get it coming up on the side on our back screen. In terms of where Just to recap about I've been investing in property for 30 years now, and I've just had an offer accepted on another one this morning.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Good. It's not like you.
I know. It's like, but I can't get a solicitor. I can't get a hold of my solicitor to put the offer in. But I have been accepted verbally, so that's
holidays
fine.
today. Holidays today. Solicitors are closed.
Kind of thought that. I knew that. Right. Okay. I'm getting an email back, actually, a message back from Audrey to say that it's closed. Email. Tom will get it done. I've emailed Tom. Job done. There you go. See, even when they're shut, if you get in touch with them, they're still there to give you a response. So Tom will actually deal with it if I email him. Superb. That is called. That is a great power team when you think about it. This is Gilbertson's in Glenrothes and Fife. Tom Gilbertson and Audrey Pratt as well is a great conveyancer, absolutely fantastic at what she does. And as I said, even when everybody's on public holiday, they're still working behind the scenes. Just shows you.
Yeah.
You didn't get many people that do that. You won't get many people that do that at all. And I think that's one of the smarter ways to invest in property. It's not necessarily just about the things that you do. It's the team that you have behind you. It's the team that will go the extra mile to get what you need to get done. For example, as I said, offer accepted this morning. I just phoned up, job done. Do you think that'll do the job? Yep, absolutely. We've got a deal. Get the offer in.
Yeah.
And then I'm away to Kesser, emailed him already, he says I'm on it.
Yeah, these kind of people that you've got, like you say, as part of your team, whether it's your financial advisor, your mortgage advisor, your solicitor and things, if they're really restricted to this 9 to 5 thing, that could kill some deals. Do you know, if you're not going to get things across the line in time?
It can, because you could frustrate it by actually not getting the offer in quick enough. And potentially there was another person in the background, believe it or not, and I managed to get it. So that's important that I get that offer in as quick as possible to allay any fears that there is a potential for it to fall through and for anybody to change their mind. I mean, everybody knows me anyway, so they know if I pin my colours to the mast, I'm no backing out, irrespective of what happens.
Yeah.
Now we just need to go and find the money. Story of my life. I need to go and find the money now.
So what I was going to kick off actually, and a question, and something that comes up quite often as a letting agent and things, I hear this a lot from landlords. And I think if you're a landlord or an investor, you really need to be asking yourself this question. And it's really, if you've got tenants in a property, do you want these tenants just paying down your mortgage, or would you rather have the cash flow coming through in order for you to then grow that buy-to-let business? And I mean, I know what the answer is if you're an investor and things, but all too often I hear landlords, and possibly it's, you know, you get accidental landlords.
Well, let's not jump the gun here, Richard. What does everyone else think about if you're a landlord? Do you want your tenants? I'll say that again. Do you want your tenants' rent paying down the capital every month of your mortgage, or would you rather keep more of the cash flow in your pocket to grow your business? What would you do? Here we are. So basically, your answer to that is Well, to be honest, that's exactly what interest-only mortgages are for.
Yeah.
And I would never do anything different. I would never ever pay down the mortgage, because all you're doing is giving yourself a bigger financial inheritance tax now.
Yeah.
When you think about the logic of that, oh, I've paid down all my mortgages. Oh my God. It's like your inheritance tax bill is going to be huge if you've got a big portfolio, if that's the case. I had somebody that says, oh, I've got no mortgages on 60 properties. What?
That's a lot of money tied up.
That's mental. Think about the leverage you can have on 60 properties, even at just say 80 grand. Because I mean, if there were 80 grand each in valuation, that's 4.8 million. If you divide that by, let's say, 0.65, that allows you to borrow. Is that right? No, 0.35. Sorry, times 0.65 divided by 0.35. That allows you to borrow 13 million.
That's crazy.
Yeah, against 4 million worth of property, because it's 35%, 65% loan to value. I'm going by, so that would give you a 65% loan to value with the major corporation banks.
Yeah.
So that would allow you to have a facility fund of in total, in terms of your mortgage, of 13 million to go alongside the 4 million you've already got. So effectively, if you've got the 13.7, you've got the 4.6, 13.7 plus 4.6, that would allow you to have 18 million pounds worth of property, as opposed to the 4.6 you've got now. That doubles every 20 years. 20 years, even if it takes 30 years, who cares? If that doubles, you've made another 18 million, which is divided by 30 years, is another 600,000 a year you've made just for it doubling over 30 years. Okay, if you multiply it by 30 again, you come back and divide it by the 20, actually you're touching on making $1 million every year in capital appreciation on that. Now, if you do that, $1 million a year on 20 years, and you've only got 4.6 and divide that by the 20, as opposed to that, you're only making 230,000 every year. Now, I say only, but that's a quarter of what you could make.
Yeah,
that's the whole point. That's why leverage is great and compound is great, because you're compounding the full asset value rather than the net asset value in that equation. So you want a bigger asset value if that's the case, if you want to compound that.
So, and then just for people who's tuning in, possibly they might have the question that, well, if I'm only paying the interest down, I'm not actually paying. And you know, they might have the feeling, well, I'm only paying the interest, I'm not actually paying down on the property, and it's so they might think that that's a thing that's negative against them as an investor, but it's not.
It's not. Congratulations, that's the right thing you should be doing. And in fact, as far as my opinion, I'm probably pretty successful at it. Hopefully, touch MDF or wood, if that's the case. No, it's I kind of think I know a thing or two about it, and paying them down is probably the wrong thing to do. It's all right if you've got an exit strategy and you're definitely selling, but if you intend to hold these all the time, then you're probably wanting as little value in them as possible, net asset value in them as possible, and that's why you borrow against them for that reason. Remember, if it's a limited company, it's completely fully tax deductible, as opposed to Section 24 if it's owned by yourself, which is you're limited to the deduction being 20% tax credit of the actual interest value itself. That might actually disappear, by the way, in the budget.
Yeah, and just to clarify as well, I think there's possibly people who, like I briefly mentioned, you know, there's accidental landlords. Maybe you've inherited a property and things, and this might not be your bigger plan, and you might just want to cover the mortgage and stay with this one property and possibly sell it once it's appreciated a bit or something. That's a different scenario. But if you're an investor and you're building a portfolio, I mean, ideally you should have that limited company set up. Like you said, Jim, it's a lot more tax efficient. And all your, you know, your tax deductible expenses things. There's a lot more benefit from having it in a limited company. We've seen a few landlords who have bought in their own name and then trying to change that over. I mean, Jim, you've had to do it as well. You'll get a capital gains on that, and you change from your own name to the limited.
Absolutely.
So if you're investing and definitely start with a limited company.
I would say so. If it's a bigger portfolio, if you're a higher rate taxpayer, it's probably advantageous, because the government can't finds it more difficult to change the legislation on limited companies as opposed to changing the legislation on individuals.
Yeah. And you're not ignoring the capital when you're doing the interest only. Do you know, you're just maybe choosing to repay it at a different time. Do you know, whether that's, do you know, when you sell, whether you refinance, when you're restructuring a portfolio and you know, pulling things together. But until then, you're making the money work for you, basically, instead of, like you say, paying down and then not being there and available.
Why would you want to pay it down? Let's be honest. Everybody thinks it's a nest egg, but the reality is the income you're bringing in out of this is probably just as good, if not better. But it is truly the appreciative value that you're going to get in terms of the compounding over the long term. Remember, this is a long game. It is not a short get rich quick. This is the Warren Buffett method of property. No, they invest in property, invest in businesses. But if it was Warren Buffett was going to invest in property, he would do it this way: long-term gains, compounding over a long period of time makes you an absolute fortune. So the tenant isn't, let's be honest, the tenant isn't paying down your mortgage. The tenant is paying the interest on the mortgage that they would otherwise have themselves. But you're taking all the risk as the landlord, because if anything happens, volatility in the market, in other words, property prices drop, then it's on your head. You're the one that has to pick up the pieces. That's the luxury of being a tenant. The tenant has the luxury of the rent is the highest they'll ever pay on a property. Whereas for a landlord, the mortgage is the lowest they'll ever pay for that property, because there'll be repairs, there'll be improvements, there'll be insurance, there'll be compliance issues, there'll be property management to go on top of that, all these different things to go on top of it. So that's why the mortgage is the minimum payment the landlord will ever pay on the property. The rent is the maximum payment the tenant will ever pay on a property, because they don't have any obligation for that at all, because it's the landlord that covers the whole lot.
Yeah, using this strategy, it really is, you know, I would say smart investors rather than a landlord, because if you're using this method and trying to use this to allow you to scale up, you're going to be an investor. You're not a landlord. I think technically the right term is an investor, not a landlord.
I've seen a lot of people recently, and probably over the last 2 or 3 years, actually coming out with this method of, all I do is keep remortgaging. Congratulations, I did that 30 years ago, and that's how I got where I am. It's not a new thing here. But they're liking it like it's like, oh my God, I've seen the light, that sort of thing. But this has been going on for years. This is what businesses do. They leverage. They actually use their existing assets in order to borrow against, in order to build more wealth. So they're borrowing at a low percentage of 5 or 6%, and their return is maybe 12 or 15%. So their net return goes anything from 6 to 9% in their net return against their investment, or against all the costs involved in actually running the property. So that's all they're doing. And congratulations, it's nothing new. Every business does that. Or what they do is they reinvest their profits. So instead of actually paying out in dividends, they take the profits and actually they reinvest them to grow as well. It's no different. The profits reinvested are the same as actually more or less the same method, the same mentality as getting the mortgage from the bank, because all you're doing is taking money from the bank, or you're taking money from your existing profits to do it. The same job.
Yeah, it's the same idea.
Everybody thinks it's like something. It's like a huge revelation. It's like I've seen the light. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Everybody thinks that that's like something miraculously new. Yes, it is to them, but this is how capitalism has always worked. Capitalism with a slight social capital element to it. In other words, some landlords, like myself, choose to rent at a lower value or give a tenant a property at a lower value in order to benefit the tenant so they can move forward and better themselves. That's in a nutshell. Unfortunately, rent legislation coming in has put a kibosh to that for most landlords, because they've now been forced into a position they're going to have to increase their rents to market rents before the rent legislation comes in for rent controls in Scotland. So that's caused a huge problem. And I've warned the government time and time again. I've warned MSPs time and time again, and it just seems to fall on deaf ears. Happy days. Yes, I'm rubbing my hands because this is golden opportunity time for everybody. For landlords, it's golden opportunity to buy existing portfolios from people who just want to exit because they're fearful of what might happen. For landlords, again, rents can go up because now it's legislated that rents are allowed to go up. For tenants, unfortunately, rents go up, and the only person that's losing out of rent controls is tenants.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was the exact people it was meant to protect.
I know. It actually says that I read through the paperwork last week, and you know, it's there to help prevent homelessness and assist tenants, and I'm like, that's crazy.
It's going to be greater homelessness.
Yeah, I know.
Homelessness is going to continue to go up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and the corporates are not going to be able to bail them out. A corporate organisation can't build 40,000 properties, which have actually been taken out of the market the last 3 or 4 years for rent. So how could you replace that? I mean, if they're doing units of 500 a time, 40,000 divided by 500, that means they've got to build 80 sets of 500. Where's the land to build that on? It's not that easy, especially in Scotland, because there's not land hanging about like that, and the zoning and the planning to get changed and all the plans to go in to get that are way behind. I mean, I read it all the time. I've still got well, he is a landlord, but he's also a builder. I've still got a builder waiting on planning permission for 2 semi-detached or detached properties in a place that's got planning permission already, and it should be a slam dunk, and he's still waiting 2 years on.
That's a long time.
It's mental. Why would that be? My God, if you're wanting to get things sped up, just get it through planning. Surely they're bound to see that and say, right, what do we need to do here? Let's get over the line. Let's get the boy get started and get on with it. No, they're not bothered.
And there'll be many, many more like situations and instances like that across the country, definitely.
Yeah, and do you know why they're no bothered? And I'll say it right here. Because people in local government will get paid irrespective.
Yeah.
Why do I need to do my job? I'm not really bothered that much.
Whether they do it right or do it wrong, they're still going to be paid, yeah.
Because you tend to find that dinosaur tends to be all the same type of people. You'll get hounded out if you are an outstanding performer. I could see that. You know, when you get hounded out if you're an outstanding performer in local authority. Sometimes you might get promoted, but most of the time you'll get your enthusiasm will disappear.
Yeah.
It's kind of like teaching, how people start off as wonderful teachers. They're raring to go and they've got all that enthusiasm, and the system just knocks it out of them over the years. I've seen teachers like that. They first started when I was young, and then I went back to see them, and it was like, oh my God, you are like death warmed up.
Being downtrodden by the system.
Yep, that's what it is.
And it's the same.
By the way, that's don't come looking for me.
I know that's not real money.
That's completely fake. It's completely fake notes.
Lock your door at night. No, I think, and it's true what you say. When you look through the housing bill and what they're going to pass this new act, what's in the bill and what the bill is supposed to be benefiting completely contradicts each other. In our opinion, because we know the reality of what's going to happen. But it just shows the people that's put that in the bill have not thought about the actual reality. So
let's jump on to talking about smarter ways to invest properties and why I would be using an interest only mortgage all the time. I mean, for me personally, it has always been cash flow optimization.
Yeah. Okay.
Cash is king. Well, cash isn't king. Cash flow is king.
Cash flow. Yeah.
So it's cash flow is the most important thing, and it's better in your pocket than actually paying it off to the bank all the time. Admittedly, your interest cost comes down, and that's fine. But remember, you're getting a tax deduction against it, and it's very tax efficient to do it like that. And it also leaves the money in your bank account using an interest-only mortgage. So if you want to, you can then build that up and then pay the mortgage off completely when it's due or before it's due, or you have money for a rainy day, or you reinvest later on and buy another property. This is the 1 pence doubled up for 31 days.
Yeah.
It's the 1 pence, and it maybe takes you a year to buy another property. One property, it takes you a year to buy another property. The next year, you've got 2 properties. And then the following year, it takes you another year to buy another property. You've got 3 properties. And the next year, in the 4th year, you've got an opportunity now, because the 3 properties are making money, you can buy 2 properties. So you're up to 5 properties after 4 years. And then the 5th year, you can buy another 2 properties, because you've got 5 properties earning for another 2 properties. You've got 7 after 5 years. See how that happens. And after, when you get to about 16 years, you've got about 28 properties. It's the compounding effect it has, is it? So it's lower monthly payments, it's increased yields, and it's stress test resilient. It's exactly what I talk about all the time, the stress testing. I will come to that, by the way, and I will show you, I'll probably, if we get a chance, I'll show you some stress testing and how it's done. The other one for me is, I touched on it about leverage and growth.
Yeah, leveraging your position.
Well, the classic example was that boy with 60 properties. He could leverage himself to the point he could get 18 million in properties. So 18 million, let's see if I've got all the right zeros there, divided by 80, because we assume that he'd be able to get 225 properties rather than the 60 he's got now.
And do you think somebody sitting in that position, do you think it's because they just don't realise how much leverage they've got available?
I think it's because they've been. I think it's because they've got old inherent beliefs that they've held as a result of how they've been brought up.
Yeah, I remember speaking.
You know, I have got someone close to me that actually was brought up like that. It's like they were never allowed. There was like, oh, I'll never take a loan. I'll always save up and buy it.
Yeah, and I had a landlord like that, and he was old school. He was an older guy, and that was very much his thought process. And he had other properties, always bought them. He never had any mortgages. He always bought outright and things, and that was just, and it was the way it was indoctrinated into it.
The issue with that is it doesn't allow you to scale as fast. The compounding effect, as I said before, you know, if you've got 225 properties compounding, doubling in 20 years, as opposed to 60 properties, you're going to be minted. That's the difference between making $1 million a year in extra in compounding and 250,000 a year in compounding. So that's the difference. And then it also gives you flexibility. As I said before, you can choose to pay down the capital or just actually have the money for doing it. And if you've got a corporate structure, mortgage interest relief, and it preserves deductibility. So what do I mean by that? Well, interest-only mortgages, borrowing maximizes the deductible element only, keeping the profits leaner and cleaner. So more or less, profits is equivalent to cash flow.
Okay.
So whatever you're making profit, you're probably making in cash flow. Whereas capital repayment, whatever you're making in profit isn't necessarily what you're making in cash flow, because you're having to pay some of that cash flow out to actually pay down the loan. You could be very profitable, by the way, in a business. And I've seen businesses like this, very profitable, but they could run out of money because they're having to pay debt down because they've got too much encumbrant debt on their business. So that's the same thing as you've got to think about when you're a landlord. The same scenario. You make sure you're not over leveraged to the point that you're actually having to pay down so much money that you don't have anything left to do anything with, or to do any repairs or improvements.
You've just got to say improvements, or then ultimately reinvest and build a bigger portfolio as well.
Definitely.
You spoke about capital appreciation and things as well, Jim, and you said, you're saying about 20 years, to have a real impact from capital appreciation on your property values as well.
Yeah, I did. And capital appreciation is absolutely mental when you understand it. I'll give you a classic example. Look at the boom. Now, I did buy just before the boom, didn't I? I bought just before the boom in COVID, and then they came out, and it's like the market just went whoosh right up, and I bought just before that, so therefore I made a huge. And I could have just left the market there and then, but you got to understand, there's times as well where the market just tanks. The credit crunch, 1990s it happened, 1980s it happened, 1970s it happened. It's like it just happens. So. And luckily enough, we never really had it in the 2010s. Will we have it in the 2020s? The 20s? I don't know. What would we call it? Wouldn't we call it the roaring 20s, would we? We'd call it the mental 20s.
Mental 20s, yeah.
The mental 20s. where everything just went out the window and reason and logic went out the window completely, and everybody
2020
parted
onwards,
away.
yeah. Mhm.
So yes, asset appreciation is definitely beneficial, and you want to get as much assets as possible appreciating over a longer period of time in order to it outweighs the loan pay down.
Yeah.
So a lot of people actually think they're actually being beneficial to themselves by paying down their loans, but they're not really, because then it doesn't allow them to scale quicker and acquire more property. Therefore, it doesn't allow them to leverage themselves or compound even more. The compounding effect. Look at that example there, where I said it was like there was a difference between making $1 million a year in compounding as opposed to 250,000 in compounding.
Yeah.
Now, do you think the difference we're having the 225 properties as opposed to 60 properties is going to cost you an extra £750,000 a year?
No.
No. So therefore, and it's not really 750,000. Remember, it's tax deductible. So the 750,000, because if it's interest, it would be tax deductible. So it would be multiplied by 0.75. So therefore, that interest in real terms would be 560,000. So has that the appreciation of the property will go up far significantly more in the long term, as opposed to the interest only payments that you're paying on the property itself, or the payments that you're paying down that you're losing opportunity to leverage on.
Yeah, and you hear people as well saying that, some people think, oh, I'm more interested in capital appreciation, and other people are more interested in the cash flow. But there's a way to there's a methodical strategy to have that balance between having a property in an area where you know it's going to appreciate in capital over time, but you're going to have a good cash flow because it's got a good rental value as well. You just need to know where to buy and do your numbers.
I distinctly remember that, and you know where to buy anyway. I distinctly remember the time where people are actually just investing in property, and this was before the boom, thinking that we'd just continue to go on forever, and before the credit crunch, think they would continue to go on forever, and they were buying property off plan like it was going to fashion. And when it hit the fan, the proverbial fan, it's like a lot of people tanked 40% in their value, and it never really recovered for them. And that never allowed them to exit then as a result. They thought it was just going to go on forever. So yes, capital growth can do the heavy lifting, but you can't do it in short term. And I think as well, the benefit of having capital repayment is if you do want to exit early, at least it's easier to clear loans and leave you with substantial gains for that reason. And the reason I say that is because there's a thing, if you keep remortgaging, and you're doing interest only, then you're going to get a deferred capital gain every single time. So what you're doing is, if the value goes up by, say it goes up in 20 years by $1 million and it was worth $1 million, but say your lending was going up every single time as well. So your lending on $1 million would end up being, if you managed to get away with it, actually it was 2 million, because it'd be 2 million, wouldn't it? Because it was going up $1 million. So multiplied by 0.75, if you were going to get away with that, your lending would be 1.5 million. Okay. So your lending eventually be 1.5 million against 2 million after the 20 years at doubling on £1 million portfolio. But you originally bought that for $1 million. So you've got 1.5 million, you've sold them now for 2 million, you've got 500,000. But wait, you've got £1 million gain to pay tax on.
Yes,
you've got £1 million times, and it's 24% now on capital gains. If your corporation tax is 25%, so we could assume 25% actually. So you've got a £1 million gain, because the £1 million you got, £1 million that appreciated when you sold it, multiplied by the 25 is 250,000. So in reality, you think you're going to be left with $500,000, when in reality you're going to be left with 250,000. And you'd be going, wait a minute, that's half the gain I thought I was going to get.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And we've seen a lot of people over the years where, like you say, they bought and remortgaged, and then it's come
even
to the
worse
point
if the market tanks.
Yep, and they've had to sell and actually make a loss in some
now, I've had it done to me, Richard. I had some of my portfolio which actually tanked and never recovered for a long period of time. But I had other parts of my portfolio which actually done exceedingly well, and it offset it anyway. So I didn't need to worry about my loan to value, because I was de-risked in that scenario.
And you also have that benefit where you've left them, and over time they've come back around again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they've come back to full circle, and they're
Yeah.
back to where they were, if not a bit better now.
Yeah.
So, but I'm all right with that, because if you're never really selling, you're just using it all the time to leverage your position, but you're actually putting away in your accounts a deferred capital gain, or deferred taxation, it would be.
And that's probably the most beneficial thing about your portfolio, is that the intention is never to sell up, it's to keep this going. Whereas some people, the end game is to ultimately sell at some point. So you need to be able to do that at the right time. And you might come to the point where I need to sell now. And like you say, the market's tanked. And if you have to do it then because of your circumstances, then you're in a tricky situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Definitely.
was asset appreciation and capital repayment and things. That's that. So then what about liquidity and opportunities and things as well? Do you know, when we think about cash and the accessible cash?
This is where I come back to the credit crunch and the lesson I learned.
Okay.
Because I do know there was landlords out there at the credit crunch that actually paid down their mortgage, and I was interest only all the time. And when it came to them asking for a further advance against their property because it had gone down in value, the banks turned around and says, "We can't give you anything." And they're like, "But I've already paid down 30,000 it." It says, "But the 30,000 doesn't exist anymore
It's a lot.
because the value of the property is going down." Yeah. So they weren't able to get any money back out to survive, and some of them actually got repossessed. Whereas I was like, happy days. It's like, this is just cash flow every single time. And profit equals cash flow, and how I was working my business. So I knew my profit, and I knew that was going to be my cash flow. So I didn't need to worry about things like that. And I was able to stay liquid for that reason. And I was able to survive in business. You know, nobody was buying and nobody was selling at that point. The whole market basically tanked. Nobody buying, nobody selling, couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, and that benefit.
So I think that's what it does. It also, what it does for having the cash readily available, I touched on it before. If the boiler accidentally goes, you've got it. You've got the money for it. If the roof, something happens to it, you've got it. If the EICR legislation changes, which it does quite
frequently,
a number of times, by the time you get your new EICR, you find out you've got to pay out another 1,500 quid for a property, because the EICR has changed and the legislation's got stronger, or they've upped their standard. And then you have to upgrade again or change again. So that then causes another problem. But if you've got interest only, you've got the cash available to be able to do that. Whereas if you paid it all down, then you have to go back cap in hand to the bank and say to them, any chance I can get that money back? That's why I'm a big fan of having it at the side and readily available, and it allows you as well to take that cash and invest in other things and add value to what you're doing. If you want to put in an extension, if you want to subdivide a room, some of these houses that or the ex-local authority houses have huge bedrooms that have got double windows in them. So and they come off the hall with a huge hall as well. So effectively, you've got the huge hall that comes round on an L-shaped, and the double bedroom with the massive double bedroom overlooking, with the two windows overlooking at the front, comes off the hall. So you can effectively put a stud partition up the middle, and you could put another bedroom in. And you could have two double bedrooms at it, and I've seen that happen. Or you could have a double and a single as well. So you can add value simplistically and easily to a property as a result of just doing that simple thing. And I've done it a couple of times.
Yeah, I've had other landlords do it as well and make 2s into 3s and things.
Yeah. Well, classic example is flats. When you have the bedrooms, which are huge, what you do is and you've got the hallway, the front door coming in, and you've got a back door coming in from the kitchen. Well, then you take away the front door, you move the wall into the main bedroom, and you still got a double bedroom, but you create a single bedroom, and you put a window where the door used to be, and you've got a door coming off of there. So you've got a double bedroom and a single bedroom. So you've now got a 2-bedroom flat when you had a 1-bedroom before. So again, that's another opportunity to do that.
But then you need to be able to do renovations like this. You need the cash flow. You need the funds available there.
Cash flow's king. Cash flow every single time. There is nothing. So I always used to follow the mantra, and the mantra was, turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash flow is king.
And
it's not over till the money's in the bank.
yeah,
There is no profit in a business really until the money hits your bank.
yeah, unless it's there
You
on the
might be
bottom.
be selling it on credit, so you're waiting on somebody to pay you. So effectively, this is how people can be so profitable but have no cash
Yeah,
to keep their business going, because they've given credit to everybody and they've not paid them yet. That's how small businesses go to business. When a big massive supplier or a big massive company goes out, Grangemouth goes out of business, or Grangemouth gets shut, which it did in Scotland, and
yeah,
therefore all the wee small traders that depended on Grangemouth for a business are out of business overnight
and yeah, the knock-on
because
effect.
of that, because it's shut. The controversial. We'll go back to the coal industry. The coal industry had huge ancillary businesses working in the coal industry. Working with them. Again, another one. Shipbuilding is another one. The steel industry is another one. Car industry is another one. These are all industries which have huge amounts of contractors that work alongside them. The house building industry, the jobs it creates is unbelievable. It's not just people building a house, it's everybody else that's involved in it.
Yeah, all the other trades that are involved in putting that together. Yeah,
Planners, banks, financing, council as well, approvals and all the rest of it. Because architects, I'm talking about planners. In other words,
yeah,
they're the ones that apply for the planning permission. Council's the ones that are approving it, and the planning department. So they're all jobs. You've got the mortgage companies, which or the finance companies, which finance the project at the beginning, the cash up front for it, and then you've got the people that building it. Then you've got the subbies that come in to fit all the refits. They do their central heating, they do the smoke detectors, they do their wiring, they do their first fix, their second fix, and all the different fixes and their final fixing. Then you've got the cleaners that come in finally to do their builders clean, and they do the initial clean, and then they do the final clean after it. So there's all these different ancillary businesses that survive off of just these single industries. And that is so important to have these keep them going. And that's what keeps everything going. And that's why when I buy another house, there'll be things needing done to it. There'll be people getting paid to do the mortgages. There'll be people getting paid to do the legal work. There'll be people getting paid to do some of the works inside to make it signed off and everything like that. There'll be people paying people to manage it. It's like all these different things. And yet we don't realise how valuable that is and how important it is to our society. The housing market almost single-handedly keeps the whole of Britain going.
Yeah, I think, and that's what I think as well. When we talk about the bill and things that's coming through for the housing, but the private sector, the amount of, I see it every day, and just in our business. The amount of contractors, the amount, just everybody that's involved in helping us run our business, and they in turn then helps them run their business.
Yeah.
And the private sector keeps on getting battered so hard by the legislation and the changes in the government and making it so difficult. And a lot of landlords, are choosing to not invest or sell up and things, and it does have a knock-on effect right through down to the cleaner.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? Right down to the cleaners.
So that's what it allows you to do. And we got a bit sidetracked, but coming back to the cash and the liquidity and opportunities and all the rest of it, allows you to deposit some further acquisitions, diversifies in other investment fields. You have an optional repayment because you've got the money stored away, and you think to yourself, maybe I should pay that mortgage down now because legislation's changed. Maybe I was coming to a deal where the mortgage rate's going up so high, it's going to make it prohibitive. The investment and return's not going to be right. So you're maybe, okay, I'm going to pay some of that down now in order to get the rate of return right. So I'm going to put some of my money into that and pay that debt down. So it just depends. And then what happens is when the mortgage rate changes again, you then go, I tell you what, I'm going to remortgage, I'm going to put on another deal, and then I'm going to bring that money back out and let it work for me again. So it's very cyclical, and it's all about timing. It's all about managing that situation and making sure it works properly for you. And that then comes down as well to what you spoke about in here, was the risk management.
That for me, I think, as a letting agent who's frontline, lettings, dealing with tenants, dealing with landlords, even if you've got one property, I think it's so important to always have that extra cash flow and that bit of a buffer where you are able to, if there's changes to legislation, you've got a void period, if you need to make a new boiler, if you need to kind of navigate a situation where maybe you've got defaults on your rent and things. If you've not got that, then you're not going to be able to provide the proper housing for the tenant, even if you've just got one property. So it's not really going to be a good thing for you to be putting tenants into a property where you've not got the cash flow to be able to look after them in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely, I can't disagree with that at all. I definitely think that's so important.
But again, I mean, and that's just in any eventuality. You're not going to always have continual bills and bills for maintenance and upkeep of the property. And that will allow you to build a pot to then reinvest as well.
Yeah,
but if you're a landlord and you've inherited a property and you just have one property, even though you've got just one property with one tenant or whatever, you have to have that buffer, that amount of money stored away and kept from the cash flow to be able to keep the property compliant and look after a tenant.
Yeah. Okay, let's run some numbers and show you some numbers here and see where we are with this. Because I think it's important to do some numbers and show everybody what we're talking about here. Let me just get this up and share the screen. So here we are, spreadsheet. We've got 0 in. Now I'll take my one I bought this morning. So I bought it for 93,000.
Okay.
8% stamp duty. So that's the ADS. 90,000 is below stamp duty threshold. So this is the ADS basically, land buildings. And then we've got 25% loan to value. We've got 4.54%. The arrangement fees 3% added to the loan. No big deal. I kind of worked it out, and it worked out. It worked out just as because I could have got a 5.4 or something like that at £250 arrangement fee, but the reality was it just turned out the same anyway. So this is a 5-year fixed rate deal at that rate. So I'd rather have that rate because I can't see rates coming down quickly anytime soon. So I'm all right with that because that gets added to the loan.
What was your rate there?
4.54. And that's what I'm getting. So 650, you said, I remember you saying that's what the deal was. So there they now, 7.2% net return. That's another, that's everything paid. That's net profit.
I know. Sorry, I've just realised what one you bought.
Yeah. So then we're looking at the mortgage interest. 42% of the mortgage of the rent is there. Gross yield 7.8%, but it will leverage. It goes to 14.8% here. You can see that there.
Yeah.
So if I bought cash, it'd be a 7.8% gross yield. If I'm leveraging it, it's 14.8%. So I'm almost doubling my position in terms of that. So there's 7% improvement with leveraging it. So basically what I'm doing is I'm increasing the value, because if I bought cash, I'd have tied up 93,000 straight away. But this time I'm only tying up 23,250. But it's actually I'll put in 2,000 for legal fees, because that'll do it. I'm tying up 33,000, which is the legal fee, which is the stamp duty, which is the deposit itself, because that's the money I'm putting in at the beginning. Yeah. So it comes to 32,000. So it's a 6.7% payback. 15-year payback. If I didn't do anything, I just kept storing the money away, it would take 15 years to pay that off, what I'd put in. Okay. So the amount, it would take 15 years for the 32,000. So that's no bad. But more importantly, it's the leverage. It's where I am in terms of risk. So I do 8 months and more or less it breaks even. See that?
Yeah.
So 378. So 8 months. If I went down to 8 months occupancy, so I lost 4 months occupancy, I would be breaking even. So I'll go back up to 12. I'm okay with that. That's de-risked a bit. That's 5-year fixed rate deal, so I've nothing to worry about that now. But it'd be interesting to test the tolerance on it. Let's put it to 8% interest rates in case it changed. Yeah, break even, 8%. Now the reality of it being 8% is, it's pretty remote at this point in time. But it has happened before. Remember, if the rent, for example, went down to 500, wherever, we're still making money. If it goes down to 450, we are still making money. If it goes down to 400, we are still making money. There's no way that's the break even, 400. There's no way a rent on a property is going to tank from 650 a month to 400 a month. But there is a way where potentially you might end up having an oversupply in the market, and you might end up having to rent this property to one person. It could only afford 400 a month.
Yeah,
you can cover all the costs and overheads, can't you, in this scenario? And that's probably the most important thing, but there'll be somewhere in between. So you're always right there. And over a period of time where, you know, and they're talking about rent controls will be cost price index plus 1%. Cost price index now, I think it's around the 4%. You'll get a 5% increase every year. So that in likelihood, that rent will go up 5% every year. So it'll be 650 times 1.05 is it'll go up to 682. The following year, 682. Look at that. Return goes up. And then the next year, it goes up another 5%. If that's the case, it could go up 716. And then the following year, it could go up another 5%. See where I'm going with this, eh?
Yeah.
It goes up 752. Look at that. I mean, your payback's fallen down to 11 years now. And you're only 3 or 4 years in. That's how remarkable this is. Remember, the 5% is going up is actually 5% of the 5%.
Yeah, we spoke about that the other day.
5% of the 5% of the 5%, because it's all the 5% of the 5% increases as well on the back of it. This is like the 1% improvement every single day. If you're doing a 1% improvement every single day for a year, you would think it's 365% over the year. It's not. It's 2,700% when you compound it like that.
Because then you're 1%, and then the 1% is then actually 2% on the 2%. Yeah, 1% on the 2% in a year.
Yes. So it shows you immediately how important that is to do it like that. To understand that and de-risk and take that into account when you're doing it.
Yeah, that's good, and the spreadsheet's really good to demonstrate that. And like you said, Jim, the likelihood that rents would fall to 400, it wouldn't maybe in the circumstances if you had, you know, oversaturation.
You know what it is? It's the peace of mind
that if the inevitable happens, then you're prepared. Yeah.
When everybody goes, oh my God, rent controls, all of a sudden they've got power and they're going to take 20% off every single rent. It's good to do that. But if they did do that, I'm not bothered. Who's selling? Because I'm buying. Honestly, that's the first thing I would think. Who's selling? Because I'm buying. Because I did interest-only mortgages and I stockpiled cash for this. And that's the exact reason you would do that. Who's selling? Because I'm buying. It's like trading places. Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, when they're on the floor and everybody's going, sell, sell, sell. And you go, buy, buy. And then they're going, sell, sell, sell. And everyone's going, buy, buy, buy. And then it changes again. It's like, we're buying again. It's that sort of thing.
It's the same thing you see when changes like this come around, and a lot of people have that fear factor. And that's when they decide to, oh, I'm going to get out now. But I think if you're an investor and really serious about building something successful, don't look at it as a time to be scared and run for the hills, but look for the opportunity in it. Like you say, you know, if other people are feeling the fear and selling, get in there and buy and make it an opportunity for you rather than something that is going to have a negative effect on your buy-to-let business.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I think that's the most important point.
Yeah, and I think I did touch on this already, because there's always going to be skeptics when whatever you say and do and things. When it comes to interest-only mortgages, people will still be stuck in their mindset of, do you know, I'd rather pay down the capital and pay off the mortgage and things. But if you're a true investor, and I think you're committed to a strategy that's going to help you leverage your position, interest-only is definitely the way to go. Not to clear, you know, to clear the debt balance as quickly as possible. It's to use the bank's money to leverage your position and create cash flow.
Again, it depends if you're after a huge wealth creation and scale fast, or if you're just happy. There's some people just content with just one or two, even though it's glaringly obvious that they could do, like the 60 properties this guy's got. Even though it's glaringly obvious what he could do with it, there's either a disconnect or this guy goes, yeah, I'm okay with that. It's quite interesting. I did something at the weekend on social media, and this is a great saying. I loved it. And I actually shared it this morning with Ian, but I'll read it again for anybody that hasn't heard this. What if this is it? So listen. What if everything that we already have may actually be enough?
Okay.
Pretty profound, yeah. It's like, I was just thinking about it the other day. It's like, what if everything you actually have is actually enough?
But then that raises the question, then what are we doing?
There you go. This is why people lose their way. that's
what we're
another
doing and
story, isn't
what
it?
we're doing and why we're doing it.
This is why, why are we doing this? What we're doing and why we're doing it? Or
Mhm.
where's my purpose now? And all these different. I think we've done a show on my sense of purpose or something like
We did,
that. Not the special purpose, as in The Jerk with Steve Martin.
yeah.
I think you've never seen that film, but older generation will get that one.
Yeah.
His special purpose.
But yeah, but you're right, and these kind of questions do kind of enter people's mind, and I will sidetrack them, and then think, why am I doing this? What's the point in all this? I think you need to kind of stay focused and don't let the other things distract you from what you're doing. There's a lot of outside noise from possibly other people that are maybe having different experience in their journey, but that doesn't mean that that's going to define how your journey is going to work out. I think keep yourself focused on what you're doing. It's the same with anything. Do you know, as an agent and things, it's like I never ever look at other agents and think what they're doing, because I just stick to what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Because
that's fatal, isn't it?
never compare yourself. Just if you're good at what you're doing in your own lane, just stick in it.
It's definitely fatal as far as I'm concerned. When you get to that stage, and you think, and you start to look at other people, and that's where envy starts to drive.
Yeah. Can we round up and talk about lending and mortgage products and things? Because some lenders and things, they've got tighter affordability rules and things like that. But I know you do, Jim. Obviously, Kessler, but using a specialist buy-to-let lender, they could really give you the best options for interest-only lending.
Yeah, it's now there's a model, and I think it's when you get to a bigger portfolio landlord, you're actually they insist that you're 140% cover rather than 125% cover.
Yeah,
for the mortgage,
in
terms of the rent to mortgage, and they make it higher because they assume that you're a bigger landlord. There's more risk involved, predominantly because they don't want to get caught out like they did in the credit crunch, where landlords seem to acquire huge valuations in order to release cash so they could leverage themselves even higher, and then it hit the fan and subprime mortgages appeared, and this is why the buy-to-let market is kind of governed by this now. These guidelines, if you're a bigger landlord, it's 140% cover of the rent rather than 125, I think it is.
Yeah.
No surprise.
But yeah, using these independent buy-to-let specialist mortgage brokers and things that could get really good deals is probably the way to go. And if you need to get advice on who that is in your area, look for the successful people in your area, and they'll probably have some good contacts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, critics, I was going to say, and a counterbalance, have you covered this already? Critics arguing, yeah.
No, I've not touched the critics, but that's
the critics argue that interest-only mortgages don't reduce the loan balance. It's like, but hey, the critics will sit on the sidelines and criticize all the time, and they've probably done nothing and amounted to nothing, and they'll never do anything except criticize other people that are actually out there doing it. So while we're fighting out in the arena, they're criticizing on the sidelines, sitting in the cheap seats. That's what critics do. That's what a critic is, effectively. I mean, it's true for investors that this is a strategic feature and not a flaw if they want to do that. An investment strategy relies on leveraging capital growth and rental income and not clearing debt clearance. That's what we are saying here. We're not clearing your debt. It's just keeping it. Remember the debt reduction as well with inflation. The deficit reduction in your debt. So what happens is if your debt is if your debt's £1 million today, with inflation erodes at that £1 million and the debt you've got, then it starts to erode it over time. So the £1 million in 20 years' time is effectively equivalent to about what? I don't know, maybe 600,000 in 20 years' time. So so in lending power, it's only worth about 600,000 now, as opposed to what you would buy today. So you've got an advantage of that as well. So you're getting the upside, but you're getting the downside as well added in to that equation. You're getting a bigger differential as a result, because inflation's eroding at the debt as well, just as much.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just to reiterate as well, is that the interest only mortgages aren't about avoiding that repayment. It's about maximizing efficiency. And that like you say, Jim, you've got that liquidity, you've got that growth potential as well. And for investors and things, capital is better working in the market than trapped inside your repayment mortgage.
Yeah, I would say so. I would definitely say that is the case. And sometimes, believe it or not, trapped inside a pension.
Yeah, we spoke about, you and I, not on the show, but we spoke about pensions.
I'm learning so much about
pensions.
Yeah. Like, my God, it's like, you know, the true figure that they tell you on pensions isn't necessarily the actual figure that your fund has grown. And your fund could be significantly less in comparison, because they're taking the true figure from the time it started to the time it is now, assuming that you're getting it exactly at every single point in time. Whereas what's happening is sometimes you're buying when it's high, sometimes you're buying when it's low, sometimes you're buying in the middle. But you're not exactly tracking the same track as them, but they get away with saying from start to finish, this is what you're getting. Yeah. But in actual fact, it could be significant. I'll give you an example. I have one, which is 76% over the last 5 years. But when I worked it out, actually, the whole fund has grown by 46%.
Mm-hmm.
So work that one out. How could they 76%? Yeah, that's weird, eh? Yeah. So it's a wee bit of smoke and mirrors. It's a wee bit misleading in terms of how it's done. Not that I'm quibbling, but I would rather take out the tax-free amount and actually invest it in a property, which will make a far significant return. And I don't think people realise that. You can take out the tax-free amount as well out the pension, and it won't actually affect the initial amount, and it won't affect your allowances you're able to put back in. It's up to 60,000 gross. You can put back in, because you're not drawing down the tax element, of the income. Yeah. You're only drawing down the tax-free element. I mean, it does mean, and you have to check with your advisors on this, your professional advisors, because remember, we are not professional advisors, and we have a disclaimer to say that. Yeah. But you have to work out, the fact is, if you can draw that down, but then you'll never get a tax-free, you'll never get part of that tax-free anymore. Everything's just taxed at the next time, but you will be able to offset it against your personal allowance. Because the tax-free element of your pension, if you're drawn down week by week or month by month, and you've still got it, you've not taken all at once, you'll get a tax-free element of 25%, but you'll also get your personal allowance of 12,570 now. So you can effectively take out 25% over 12,570. So it's boosting it's kind of like boosting your personal allowance.
Yeah.
If that makes sense at all, if you're not drawing down the full tax element.
Take that out, yeah.
Yeah. So that's just another one thrown in. God, you get some amount of great advice on here.
I was going to say, do you know, we've done a show, it's a good while about pensions, but possibly even, do you know, that could be another show to talk about pensions, because things, I mean, you brought some things to my attention. But then you brought something to my attention, which I thought was quite interesting. And I think a lot of people really don't understand, possibly even the pensions that they've got set up themselves.
Well, let's park that, because I'm reading this book and I will be at the PIN meetings in March and August next year, the Property Investors meetings at Edinburgh in March and August in Glasgow. And I will be talking about that exact subject, about what I've learned about oh my God, about pensions. It's like, I had no idea. It's a very tax efficient vehicle, but it's like, you don't realize how much money you're losing in a pension.
Yeah, it's quite surprising.
Doesn't mean to say you shouldn't invest in it, by the way. But still, at this point in time, you don't know what you don't know. So it's probably the one that you know is the best investment vehicle at this point in time for you, long term.
Yeah, good. Well, if anybody wants any information about those dates that Jim will be speaking about that at the PIN meetings, Edinburgh, Glasgow, jump in the comments, message me direct. I'll let you know. Anyone that's been tuning in, if you're tune into the YouTube channel, jump in the comments. We'll always pick them up. But if you've got any maybe pointers on what strategy you use, or any questions about the strategies we spoke about today, like using interest-only mortgages to leverage your buy-to-let position, please jump in the comments and come back to us. And we'll leave it there today. That was quite good. Thanks for that, Jim. And we'll catch you next week, 12:30 on Monday, as usual.
Brilliant. Thanks so much.
Bye for now. See you later.